A few moments of reflection on this last Shabbat of the year. First, a question. Who watched Queen Elizabeth's funeral, whether it was live or later? Thanks. I came home, did not watch it in time, came home, watched it, and was mesmerized. I admit to being a fan of British royalty. In 6th grade, I remember writing a report about Queen Elizabeth, and in the summer of 1981, what happened that summer, anyone? In the royal family? The wedding, exactly. Charles and Diana got married. I was in Andover, Massachusetts, and we got up at, 5 a.m. and watched the wedding. I've always been fascinated by Queen Elizabeth's stance and things, her clothing, her posture, and particularly her dignity. This week, I admit, I took on a number of articles to read, to look at old pictures, and even read a fascinating reflection on her unwavering and tactical, it was described, clothing. She remained consistent all the years. And I wondered, what lessons are there for us to learn this Shabbat? I'm not sure. I do know there are lessons to be taken from everyone's life. But we were thinking about a queen, and of course we're coming on to high holidays, so I did come back to another conversation of some decades ago. 2 high holiday prayer books ago, there was a large discussion in the rabbinic community, perhaps in the cantorial community, but I wasn't in that dialogue. There was, yes, about how to translate Avinu Malkeinu in what was then a new high holiday prayer book. For Avinu Malkeinu means our Father, our King. So my colleagues were batting around on a then listserv things like, well, should we not translate it and just say Avinu Malkeinu? Should we keep the male hierarchical language and just say our Father, our King? Should we find some gender-neutral term? Or should we make it female, Imenu Malkatenu, which rolls off the tongue real easily? Ultimately, which you'll find out if you don't recall, you'll find out Sunday night or Monday if you're here for high holiday services, they decided not to translate it. And so Avinu Malkeinu, in now the second high holiday prayer book, the English sentences start out with Avinu Malkeinu. They don't actually start out with our Father, our King. Now let's be clear, if you know Hebrew, you know what it means. So it doesn't leave a lot of room for imagination, but my colleagues, and I give them much credit and respect for creating wonderful prayer books, really gave this serious thought and dialogue and decided that keeping the Hebrew there would be sort of more generally evocative and not keep people in particular male roles, particular hierarchical roles, in case those were not people's God concepts, but perhaps they are. As Avinu Malkeinu is very specific to our high holidays, right? We look to Avinu, a parent or a loving parent who will bring us back and welcome us back as we come with teshuvah, as repentance. And the image of a melech, of a king, is that one who judges us and who calls us into account as we come forward on the days of awe. So I still carry that conversation several decades later. And I carry it forward in various conversations in this synagogue building, including in our last 2, actually, adult B'nai Mitzvah classes. We did some God conversations, speedy ones. So if you've ever seen the image of, Chip is smiling, yes. We didn't do dating, but if it's with the model of speed dating, if you've ever heard of what speed dating is, you talk to someone for a few minutes and you move to the next one. Well, we did that on God conversations, because I thought if I ask people to talk for a really long time, they're going to run silly out of the room and say, I don't want to go there because I don't believe in God, I'm not sure. So we did it for, about 3 minutes a question, and we had some interesting conversations like, what do you believe in? What do you not believe in? What do you think God does? What are your doubts about God? If you were going to have a conversation with God, how would you address God? And that's the one I leave you with to think about. So think about it. Everyone here has multiple roles. If you're a parent, you have any number of names there. If you're any kind of professional, you have some kind of title, even if it's Mr., Ms., Miss, or perhaps any professional titles. If we have our friends call us, maybe by nicknames or names or other silly things that will come up over the years, what do you call someone if you're writing them a letter or having a phone conversation? I know writing a letter is really old school. But the interesting question to me is, what would you call God? So they were deep, meaningful conversations, and they will continue. But for tonight, I ask you to hold on to that question, those questions, as we approach the new year. If you were to be in a conversation with God, as silly as that might sound to some, or perhaps crazy if you don't believe in God, but let's say you were, what would you call God? Would you call God Avinu Malkeinu? Would you refer to God as a parent or a ruler, a healer, a giver of life, a creator, a source of faith, a rock? I invite you to think, as we approach Rosh Hashanah, who is your God? Or who is not your God? If you have belief, what do you believe God does or doesn't do? And if you doubt, is it because you think God is not all-powerful, or what else is it that's in that conversation? And lastly, I invite you to think about what is a moment of belief or affirmation for you, perhaps a moment we might call awe. Well, I'd love to have conversations for more than 3 minutes in the new year. I invite you, as we approach the new year and as we will read and sing Avinu Malkeinu beginning Sunday evening, I invite you to think about, who is your God? What would you call that God? Whether it's Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, Imenu Malkatenu, our Mother, our Queen, my friend, the one I wrestle with, the one who gives me strength, or... So Sunday night we will begin Rosh Hashanah and we will sing Avinu Malkeinu for the first time. Think about, who is your God? Who do you come before on these days of awe? And who, if you're not sure, who might you let your God be for you? May the new year be one of exploration and conversation. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.